The bank manager's office felt too small, too warm as I watched my husband's face appear on the computer screen. James looked exactly as he had 2 weeks ago, before the car accident that took his life. Same kind eyes, same gentle smile. But something was different. "If you're watching this, Emily, it means I'm gone," he began. "And it means you're about to learn the truth about who I really am. My name is Emily Parker, and until that moment, I thought I knew everything about my husband. We'd met in college, married young, and built what I believed was a perfect life together. James worked as an investment banker while I ran my own small bookstore. We had a beautiful home in the suburbs, plans to start a family, and enough love to fill a lifetime. Or so I thought. First, James continued on screen, "You need to know that I love you. Everything between us was real. But my job, my background, my family, those were carefully constructed lies." The bank manager, Mr. Chen, sat quietly in the corner, giving me privacy while maintaining protocol for viewing secured messages. I barely noticed him as James's words washed over me. "This account contains $47 million, James said. "Money I've gathered over the years from my real work. There are also files, documents that explain everything. But Emily, once you access this information, there's no going back. Your life will change forever." My hands trembled as I paused the video. $47 million? I whispered. "That's impossible. We lived on his banking salary. We budgeted for vacations. We had a mortgage." "Mrs. Parker," Mr. Chen spoke gently, "would you like to continue the video?" I nodded, though part of me wanted to run from that office and pretend this was all a bad dream. James's face reappeared, his expression more serious now. "The money is yours, no strings attached. You could take it, walk away, and never look at the files. That might be safer. But I know you, Em. You'll want the truth, no matter how dangerous it might be." Dangerous? My James, who got nervous driving in heavy traffic? Who couldn't watch horror movies because they gave him nightmares? "If you choose to look at the files," he continued, "you'll find instructions on what to do next. But be careful who you trust, including people who claim to be my friends or colleagues, especially them." The video ended, leaving me with a choice I never thought I'd face. Continue living with the memory of the James I knew, or uncover the truth about the man I actually married. "Mrs. Parker." Mr. Chen's voice broke through my thoughts. "There's more. Your husband left specific instructions about accessing the account. You'll need to use these." He handed me a sealed envelope. Inside were a key and a series of numbers, coordinates, I realized, along with a handwritten note. "Remember our first date. The real one, not the story we tell." My mind flashed back to that night 12 years ago. We planned to go to a fancy restaurant, but a storm had knocked out power across the city. Instead, we'd ended up at a tiny Chinese place, the only restaurant still open in the blackout. We'd always told people we met at a coffee shop. I never understood why James insisted on changing that detail. The coordinates led to that same Chinese restaurant. James had left something there for me, something I'd need before I could access the rest of his files. As I left the bank that afternoon, my world felt off-kilter. Everything I thought I knew about my life, my marriage, had been called into question. The James I knew clipped coupons and worried about retirement savings. How could he have secretly amassed $47 million? I drove home in a daze, barely registering the familiar streets of our neighborhood. The house looked the same. James's gardening tools still scattered by the garage, waiting for his return. The sight brought fresh tears to my eyes. Inside, I headed straight for his home office. I'd already gone through it once after his death, looking for insurance papers and account information. Now I looked at everything with new eyes. The degrees on his wall from Princeton, were they real? The family photos showing holidays with his parents in Connecticut, were those people even his real parents? They'd both died years ago in a car accident before I met them. At least that's what James had told me. I spent hours going through his things, looking for any clue I might have missed. His laptop was password protected, and none of our usual passwords worked. His phone had been destroyed in the accident. Even his paper files revealed nothing unusual, just normal bank statements, tax returns, and work documents. Around midnight, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Wondering about James yet?" My heart raced as I stared at the message. Another followed quickly. "The Chinese restaurant. Tomorrow. Noon. Come alone." I took a screenshot of the messages before they suddenly disappeared from my phone. Deleted remotely. I realized with a chill, whoever had sent them had access to my device. Sleep was impossible that night. I lay awake, replaying every moment of my life with James, looking for signs I might have missed. Had there been clues all along? Times when his story didn't quite add up. There was the way he always insisted on doing her banking online, never visiting branches in person. How he traveled for work but never wanted me to meet him in other cities. The mysterious calls he'd take outside, claiming they were client calls that had to be private. But he'd also been the most loving, attentive husband anyone could ask for. He never missed an anniversary, always remembered the smallest details about my likes and dislikes. He'd spent countless hours helping me set up my bookstore, installing shelves on weekends and learning about inventory management to help me succeed. How could that man be someone else entirely? Morning came too quickly. I got dressed mechanically, trying to decide what one wears to meet a mysterious texter who might reveal secrets about your dead husband's double life. As I headed for my car, I noticed something odd. A small red dot on my windshield. I approached carefully and found a nearly invisible device attached to the glass. A tracker. Someone was watching me. The Chinese restaurant looked exactly as I remembered it from our first date, right down to the faded red lanterns hanging in the window. I arrived early, parking across the street to watch who came and went. At exactly noon, my phone buzzed again. Inside. Last booth. Taking a deep breath, I stepped into the dimly lit restaurant. The same elderly woman who'd served us 12 years ago nodded in recognition as I passed. In the back booth sat a woman about my age, dressed in a crisp business suit. "Emily," she said as I approached. "I'm Diana. I worked with James." "At the bank?" I asked, sliding into the booth. She smiled sadly. "No, his real job." She placed a small device on the table that emitted a soft hum. "Signal jammer. Now we can talk freely." Over the next hour, Diana revealed a truth that shattered everything I thought I knew. James hadn't been an investment banker. He'd been part of a private intelligence organization that specialized in exposing corporate corruption. The banking job was his cover, she explained. But his real work involved infiltrating companies, gathering evidence of illegal activities, and ensuring that evidence reached the right authorities. "That's where the money came from?" I asked, thinking of the $47 million. "Partially. Whistleblower rewards can be substantial, but most of it came from his family." "His family? But they're dead." Diana shook her head. "His parents are very much alive, Emily, and they're not the middle-class suburbanites he described. The Parkers are one of the wealthiest families in the country, old money carefully hidden from public view." My head spun as she continued. James had been born into a world of immense privilege and power. But instead of living off his inheritance, he'd chosen to use his position and resources to fight corporate crime. "Why didn't he tell me?" I whispered. "Protection," Diana replied. "The companies we investigate, they don't play nice. The less you knew, the safer you were." "Were?" I caught her use of past tense. "What do you mean, were?" Her expression turned grave. "James's accident wasn't an accident, Emily. He was getting close to exposing something big. Really big. That's why he set up the failsafe with the bank." I felt the blood drain from my face. "Are you saying someone murdered my husband?" "Yes. And now they know you've accessed the account. Which means you're next on their list." As if on cue, 2 men in dark suits entered the restaurant. Diana tensed. "Back door. Now." We slipped out through the kitchen just as I heard the elderly owner protesting in Mandarin at the men's forceful entrance. Diana led me through a maze of alleyways to a waiting car. "The files James left you," she said as we sped away. "They contain evidence that could bring down some of the most powerful people in the country. That's why they killed him. That's why they're after you. But I haven't even seen the files yet." "Doesn't matter. They can't risk you having access to them." She handed me a burner phone and a passport. "You need to disappear for a while. There's a safe house." "No," I interrupted. "I'm not running. James died trying to expose these people. I want to know why." Deanna studied me for a moment before nodding. "He said you'd say that. That's why he left you this." She pulled out a small USB drive. "Everything you need to understand what he was working on. But once you look at it, there's no going back." I took the drive, thinking of James's warning in the video. He'd known this moment would come. Known I'd choose truth over safety. "What was he investigating?" I asked. A consortium of pharmaceutical companies, Diana explained. They've been deliberately suppressing cancer treatments to maintain profits from their current drugs. James found proof. Names, dates, emails ordering the destruction of research that could have saved millions of lives. The magnitude of it hit me like a physical blow. All those times James had seemed distracted or troubled, saying work was stressful. He'd been carrying this burden alone. The coordinates he left, Diana continued, they lead to more than just the restaurant. There are 5 locations, each containing pieces of evidence he scattered as insurance. But you'll need help gathering them. Why me? Why not leave everything with your organization? Because he didn't trust anyone completely. Except you, she smiled sadly. He called you his moral compass. Said you were the only person he knew who could never be bought or corrupted. I thought of my small bookstore, the simple life we built. Had that been part of why he loved me? Because I was content with what we had, never wanting more? The men following us, I said, glancing in a side mirror. Who are they? Private security contractors. Mercenaries, basically. They work for whoever pays the most. She took a sharp turn down a side street. Right now, that's Blackworth Pharmaceuticals. The name triggered a memory. James had been reading about them just weeks before his death, saying something about their CEO making suspicious stock trades. What do I do now? I asked. First, we need to get you somewhere safe. Then, she handed me a key identical to the one from the bank. We start following James's breadcrumbs. The safe house was a modest apartment in a quiet neighborhood. Diana helped me settle in, showing me the security features James had installed. The USB drive is encrypted, she explained. You'll need 3 keys to access it. The first was in the restaurant, that jade pendant the owner gave you. The second is hidden at the next set of coordinates. The third, she paused. The third is something only you would know. As night fell, I sat at the apartment's small desk, examining the pendant. It looked ordinary, but contained a tiny microchip. James had planned everything meticulously. My phone, the burner Diana provided, buzzed with an alert. Someone had broken into our house. Through the security cameras James had secretly installed, I watched men in black tactical gear methodically searching every room. They spent extra time in his office, tearing apart furniture and removing sections of wall. They won't find anything, Diana assured me, watching over my shoulder. James was too careful. But seeing strangers violate our home, destroy the life we built, ignited something in me. Grief turned to anger. Fear became determination. Tell me everything, I demanded. About James's work, about the people who killed him. Everything. Over the next several hours, Diana revealed the scope of James's investigations. Blackworth Pharmaceuticals was just the tip of the iceberg. Their CEO, Howard Blackworth, headed a network of companies involved in everything from illegal drug trials to bribery of government officials. James discovered they were testing experimental treatments on unknowing patients in developing countries. Diana explained. When the trials went wrong, they buried the evidence. Literally in some cases. Dawn was breaking when Diana's phone chimed. Her face went pale as she read the message. We have a problem, she said. One of our safe houses was just compromised. They're getting closer. How? I thought we were careful. There's a mole in the organization. Has to be. She started gathering her things. We need to move. Now. But as we headed for the door, gunshots erupted from outside. Diana shoved me back, drawing a weapon I hadn't known she carried. Back door, she ordered. There's a garage. Gray sedan. Keys are. More shots. Diana fired back through the window, then stumbled. Red blossomed on her white shirt. Diana. Go, she gasped. Get the evidence. Finish what James started. I wanted to help her, but she pushed me away. The third key, she whispered. It's your wedding song. But not the one from the ceremony. The one you danced to, later. Understanding dawned. At our wedding reception, we danced to a traditional first dance song. But later that night, in our hotel room, we'd swayed to another song. One that had been playing during that blackout dinner on our first date. Diana pressed her gun into my hand. Car. Go. I'll hold them off. Tears streaming down my face, I ran. Behind me, Diana's gunfire covered my escape. I made it to the garage, found the sit-in. As I sped away, more shots echoed in the pre-dawn darkness. 3 days later, I had all 3 keys: the jade pendant from the restaurant, a small crystal buried at the base of a tree where James first told me he loved me, and the psalm, our real wedding psalm. The files were exactly what Diana had described. And more. Years of evidence meticulously gathered: money trails, emails, video recordings of closed-door meetings. Enough to bring down not just Blackworth, but dozens of executives and officials. James had been killed because he discovered something even worse. Blackworth wasn't just suppressing cancer treatments. They were deliberately causing cancer clusters in poor communities to create test subjects for their drugs. I spent weeks organizing the evidence, following James's careful instructions. He created a dead man's switch. If anything happened to me, everything would automatically be sent to journalists, prosecutors, and regulatory agencies worldwide. 1 month after James's death, I walked into FBI headquarters and turned myself in, along with copies of all the evidence. Within hours, arrests began. Howard Blackworth, board members, government officials. The body count grew as conspirators turned on each other. Deanna survived her wounds. The mole was caught trying to flee the country. Slowly, justice began to unfold. I kept the bookstore, though I hired managers to run it. My time was spent working with prosecutors, testifying in trials, and carrying on James's mission through a foundation I created in his name. The $47 million, most went to the victims' families. The rest funds research into the very treatments Blackworth tried to suppress. Sometimes at night, I watched James's video message again. Everything between us was real, he'd said. And it was. He just had an even bigger heart than I'd known, one that fought for justice while loving me with equal passion. I'm not the same woman who walked into that bank 2 months ago. James's death changed me, revealed strengths I never knew I had. But his love, his real love, gave me the courage to fight. The truth is both a burden and a gift. James knew that. Now, so do I.